Hello! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here and you don't know me, my name is Jessica and I'm a third year PhD student at the University of Aberdeen in the Department of Chemistry. So today I thought I would do a little Q&A video where I'd give you guys the opportunity to ask me any questions you have about some PhD advice or about my PhD journey in particular. So I asked you guys to ask me questions on my Instagram and also on Twitter and in the comment section on my last video. And today I'm going to answer some of the questions that you guys came up with. So I have my trusty iPad here because well, I'm recording on my phone. So I took a screenshot of the questions that I got and some of them were quite similar, so I'm just going to group them together. There'll be a few general themes of questions that I'll answer, so let's get to it. One of the top questions I was asked was if I have any advice for PhD students that are starting soon. My first bit of advice for any PhD students that have just started or are starting soon would be enjoy your first year. I made the mistake in my first year to force myself to work 9 to 5, even if I didn't have enough work to do, and I was always feeling like I wasn't doing enough or that I didn't know enough, and I would make myself feel guilty if I left at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, say, because I didn't have anything else to do. But in your first year, this is the time where you can leave early because sometimes you don't have anything to do. Okay, there's always a paper or something that you could be reading, but actual lab work in your first year, this is when you're just figuring stuff out. This is when you're getting to grips with all of the techniques that you're going to be using in your later years. This is when you're figuring out which direction your project is going to go into. So I think don't put too much pressure on yourself in first year. Okay, that was kind of two things combined together. So first of all, enjoy it and don't force yourself to work 9 to 5, 8 to 8, whatever, if you don't need to. Like I said, this is the time where you can afford to leave early because trust me, in your later years, you're going to wish that you took a bit more time off. And don't put too much pressure on yourself. I don't know why, but going into my first year, I put this pressure on myself that I had to create great things and I had to get fantastic results in my first year because every single second counts towards my thesis. Wrong. I have now realised, as I have just finished writing up my second year assessment, that nothing I did in my first year is probably going to go into my thesis at the end. Another bit of advice is keep track of all the papers that you read and try and find a good system for filing the papers and for filing the notes that you've taken on papers. Also, try and find a good system for naming papers because later on when you start writing things, you will have all of these papers in all your folders, that's very well, but you'll be thinking, but what paper is actually the reference for this bit of information? So make sure you come up with a good system for filing, naming, and organising your papers because when it comes to writing assessments later on, you'll thank yourself for it. So yeah, that would be my main bit of advice for PhD students starting soon. Enjoy it, don't work too hard, file your papers correctly, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Okay, moving on to the next question. So I had a question that asked me what my favourite part about doing a PhD in chemistry is, and also what the favourite part of my PhD is. So for me, my favourite part of doing my PhD is the flexibility of it. What I mean by the flexibility is that if I have an appointment that I can only get for 3:30 on a Friday afternoon, it's not a problem if I leave the lab and go to my appointment at 3:30 in the afternoon. Or if I run an experiment at 9 o'clock in the morning, but I know I'm going to have 3 hours until I can come back to check the experiment. It doesn't matter if I go to the supermarket to go get my food shop and then come back later on if I don't have any work to be doing whilst waiting. Which most of the time I do have work to be doing while waiting, but sometimes you're just not in the mood for doing it, okay? I also enjoy, because I'm doing a chemistry PhD, that sometimes I'm in the lab, sometimes I'm on the computer and I'm writing assessments or I'm writing up results or I'm analysing data, sometimes I'm preparing presentations for conferences, sometimes I'm reading journal papers, sometimes I'm ordering supplies for the lab, sometimes I'm supervising undergraduate or master's students, so it's very diverse doing a PhD in chemistry, and I like that you're not just sitting there doing lab work, 9 to 5 every day. Every day is different and there's always different things to be doing almost every single day. Okay, moving on. I hate this question, right? Everybody asks me this as a chemist. So the question is, what's your favourite element in the periodic table? I don't have a favourite element in the periodic table. If I did have to choose one just purely out of aesthetic reasons, I would say neon because, well, why wouldn't you like nice and shiny neon signs, which contain neon? Yeah, that question always troubles me because I really don't know how to choose a favourite element. Okay, that was a boring answer, sorry. Someone asked me, what made you want to do a PhD? So this is a bit of a story time, I guess. So when I finished my undergraduate degree in 2018, I got a job to work in Malta as a quality control laboratory analyst for a pharmaceutical company. So I moved to Malta in July of 2018. Had a nice time there in the sun, enjoying the beach, working stupid hours like 6 in the morning until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then my other shift was 2 o'clock in the afternoon until 10 o'clock at night, which was not fun. And I guess after a period of time I was feeling a bit homesick because I moved to Malta by myself as well, and I was ready to come home, I guess. And while I was finishing my undergraduate degree, it was always on my mind that I would like to pursue a PhD position and that I would like to continue doing research, because in my master's year of my degree I went to Italy for 4 months on an Erasmus placement and I carried out a research project there. So when I came back I knew that I was interested in research, but the PhD positions that were available at the time of me finishing my degree just weren't really what I wanted to do. So to come back to where I was, I took that position in Malta, I moved there. I was in Malta for about 9 months or so before I was starting to look for things back in Scotland to come back to. So I applied for a few jobs in Scotland, and then one day I got an email from my current supervisor saying, "Hi Jessica, we have a PhD position available. If you're interested, you should definitely apply." So I applied. The project sounded very interesting, right up my street. It was in the same area of research that I did my master's project in, but just with a slightly different focus. And so I applied and I got the PhD. I guess that's maybe more of a story about how I got my PhD and kind of my career journey, but it all ties in together. The reason I wanted to do it, well, first of all, I've always been a very academic person, and for me, I just always loved studying. I know in a PhD you don't actually study, but I think I really enjoy being in that academic setting where everyone's kind of on the same level, they're all there for the same reasons. And at my particular university where I did my undergraduate, which is the same university I'm at now doing my PhD, I really enjoyed the community there. I enjoyed all of the lecturers, all of the people, and yeah, I was just attracted to coming back to my university to pursue this PhD. I guess having the title of doctor at the end of the PhD was a nice kind of touch as well to encourage me to do my PhD. But yeah, I think the main reason I wanted to do a PhD is because I enjoy research and I enjoy studying and gaining qualifications as well, I guess. Okay, someone asked me, do you work alongside anyone in your PhD? I'm not sure exactly what this means, but if you mean like, do I have to collaborate in teams or anything? There's lots of people in my lab and we're all doing the same kind of work but on different areas of natural products chemistry. From time to time we work together to like help each other out and teach each other new skills. Also, we sometimes collaborate with each other, not just within our lab, but amongst other labs internationally. So we're often looking for people that can run experiments for us, which we will include in our papers, and then that requires a lot of communication and working together, usually through Zoom these days. I guess in a roundabout way, even though I'm carrying out my project individually, I'm still working with people. I work with my supervisor all the time, I work with people in the lab to get help, and I help other people. In short, yes, I guess I do work alongside people during my PhD. So I had another question which said, what's your schedule like? Why did you decide to start a PhD? Okay, so I already covered starting a PhD, but my schedule, I try to work 9 to 5 as much as possible, just to give myself a sense of routine and to just be the most productive, I guess. My most productive hours are typically in the morning, so I try to get any kind of like brain heavy work done in the morning, and then maybe just some routine lab work in the afternoon, for example. But something I have learned from my first year, I guess, is that if there are days where, let's say it's 3 o'clock and I've finished everything that I have to do for the day, but maybe there's still some things on my to-do list, however, I don't really feel like doing them. I am at that stage in my PhD and at that stage with myself that I can tell myself now, okay, it's 3 o'clock, you're tired, you're exhausted, just go home and rest, or go and exercise, just go and do something for you that you will enjoy. I've stopped forcing myself to have this ideal 9 to 5 routine if my body doesn't want me to do it. Again, that's the good thing about PhD, you're not being watched 24/7. Well, I'm not. I know different people's supervisors and lab environments can be completely different. But for me, I'm very fortunate that I can come and go from the lab whenever I want. No one's checking up on me. So my schedule is flexible, but I do try to work 9 to 5. Okay, so 2 questions I'm going to try and tie together. They're asking, so what's some good career options after doing a PhD in chemistry apart from lecturing and becoming a professor? And the other question is, what do you plan to do after your PhD? I'm not completely clued up in the subject, I have to say, but I do know like the main kind of areas or things that you can go into. So like the person mentioned, the most obvious one is trying to get into academia and starting to try and lecture and make your way to becoming a professor. In some instances, this is done through trying to fund your own research group within a department, within a university. And now there's actually positions which I think are called teaching associates, which are positions strictly for teaching and lecturing after you do your PhD. For me personally, the stress of trying to find funding in order to start my own research group does not sound appealing at all. If I was to go into lecturing, which is something that does really interest me, I would want to do it through the teaching associate route. I don't want that stress of having to find a funding for a research group, set all of that up, publish papers, and then I can lecture on the side. If I'm to lecture, I want it to be my main focus. My main focus would be teaching. Okay, so that's one route. You can go down the lecturing academia route. Also within academia, you can do a postdoc position. A postdoc position is a postdoctorate position, so a research position after you finish a PhD. At this point, you're no longer classed as a student, you're actually classed as staff, and you're basically doing similar to your PhD, but you know what you're doing a bit more, and you don't have to write a thesis at the end of it. The main aim is to publish papers and to support PhD students in the lab, whether that's through a kind of managerial role or supervising PhD students, and you're also doing your own research at the same time. For me, a postdoc position sounds really appealing also. I'm quite flexible with what I want to do when I finish, to be honest. If a good position comes up at the time when I'm finishing and it's something that seems interesting to me and it's a position that I think requires a PhD, then I will go for it. What I mean by this is I don't really want to do a job that doesn't so much require a PhD, because then I think I'll feel like I've almost wasted my time doing my PhD. Not entirely, but I want to be doing a job which appreciates my PhD, if that makes sense. So I'll see what comes up around the time of finishing, whether it's in academia or whether it's in industry. I'm quite flexible in that sense. So there's also the industrial route which you can go down. So that means you leave academia, you leave university completely, and you start to work for industry. Ideally for me, a position that I would like within industry would be a scientist within a research and development lab, whether that's a pharmaceutical company or maybe a company that provides scientific instruments, and I would be a technical expert of those instruments, and I would go and provide technical support and teach people how to use the instruments. I very much enjoy supervising people and training and teaching people. So if I don't do that through a lecturing role, I think I would quite enjoy to like train people up within a lab, within industry. Again, I think I want to stick to the kind of research area, as I do very much enjoy researching. But like I say, I'm quite flexible, and we'll see what positions come up at the time of finishing. And the final question I'm going to answer today is, someone's asked, can we pursue our own researches in the field alongside having a job? In regards to doing a job and doing a PhD at the same time, I know a lot of people that are doing a full-time PhD in my lab, and they actually work a part-time job in order to make money, because many PhDs aren't actually funded and people have to make their own money essentially because they don't get a grant every month. Well, I do know people that work a part-time job while doing a full-time PhD, and I do know that it is possible. Personally, I don't work while doing my PhD because I have a grant which I receive every month, so I basically get paid for doing my PhD. So I'm very fortunate that I don't have to focus on 2 things at once, and I can just completely focus on my PhD. Okay, so that's all the questions I'm going to answer for today. Thank you so much for watching. I actually have to leave in 10 minutes to go for my first vaccine appointment, so I'm going to go and get ready for that. I finished my second year assessment and handed it in today as well, so we've got good vibes going on today. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, it would help me out a lot. And see you next time. Bye!